On the Wake Up Radio presents The Center with your host, DC Radical One.
All right, let's try this again. Greetings, friends, family, allies, and enemies. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You all to give me a sound check because I left my microphone somewhere. So I need to know that you all can hear me, or else there is no reason to continue forward. So I see people, see numbers, people in the audience, but I do not see anyone in the chat. So if someone can come in the chat and let me know that they can hear me clearly, see forward from there. Peace to Brother Crow. Brother Crow, can you hear me clearly? Give me a 1 if you can. All right, thank you. So there may be some background noise. I don't know. Again, like I said, I don't have a microphone, so I'm not sure how this will go. Not only do I not have my microphone, but the other day I lost one of my earbuds as well. So yeah, it's one of those weeks that I won't make. Cost a lot less than earbuds. Replacement earbuds, it costs a whole heck of a lot less than the ones I had the last 3-4 years. It's a nice discussion. We're going to talk about the mental health crisis in Black community. And if we're being completely honest, there's been a mental health crisis since there really in Black community. And the music's too loud. Check. How about now? That's the normal. It's at the normal rate it is. Oh, wait a minute. My bad. My mistake. How about now? All right. That's my mistake. StreamYard has added. They added another new feature that I didn't pay attention to. So I thought I was adjusting the sound I thought I was adjusting the music, but they have additional things that you can adjust sound for. So it's my mistake. I was used to doing it the old way, but they got something new, though not improved, in my opinion. All right. So let me go back. What I was saying is tonight's discussion will be about the mental health crisis in the Black community. And I believe that the mental health crisis started before there was a Black community, right? And Walimu Baruti, says that you cannot swim in the sea of insanity and not get wet. Right? That's a saying that he has. And from an African perspective, right? What we see as this society in this day and age is without question a sea of insanity. Like things that are now considered normal the things that they're trying to make normal are not normal for African people. And well, first of all, let me greet everybody else who's here. I already greeted Brother Crow, BB Folding, Brother Crow, BB Folding, Sister Simone, and BB Folding, Brother, you got ripped off. So, yeah, what we're seeing is normal. It's not normal. To that effect, even what we would think of as perfectly sane Black people, I argue, are not such. Right? None of us, no Black person in America is optimally working at their maximum psychological efficiency. And the reason why is because you're in a society that is built upon denying that reality to each of us as an individual and to all of us as a collective, right? Secondly, and excuse me for a minute. Secondly, the metrics that are generally used for, and I wish the integrated school psychologist was here. From my understanding, the metrics that are used to determine sanity are in the European society are basically the absence of an outbreak, or the absence of a psychological break, or the absence of visible mental crises, right? So, in other words, if you don't appear crazy, you are assumed to be sane. And then, of course, people, but then at the same time, all people are considered to have some aspect of mental distress, because they say that everyone should go to seek therapy. Now, here's my only thing with that. If everyone needs to seek therapy, is it that there's something wrong with everyone, or is there something wrong with the society that's making everyone need to seek therapy? You see how that works? So these two things are held both as truths, despite them being by the general society, despite them being contradictory to each other, right? So the reason I really wanted to talk about this was simply observing the community here where I am. And I don't have the means to observe our communities nationwide, so I can't tell you what I see everywhere. What I can tell you is, based upon our historical and current realities, I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that less than 1% of Black people would be even close to being psychologically healthy based upon an African and not European paradigm, right? And so that's one thing we're going to talk about tonight, is the differences between being psychologically healthy based upon Europeanism, being psychologically healthy based on Africanity, right? I think, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think it would be a stretch to say that as a collective, or not a stretch, but controversial. I don't think this is a controversial statement, but y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's a controversial statement to state that Black people as a collective do not love themselves as themselves, right? Dr. Frances Cress Welsing has a saying. She says, I will not rest until Black children love themselves as themselves. If we just use that basic metric for mental health, of loving ourselves as ourselves, then we really in bad shape. is physically apparent in our women. Altered hair, altered bodies, and unnecessary enhancements. We've seen it all. We know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go into it. It's physically apparent on our women, but it's physically apparent on the men as well. For example, how many people do you know do not smoke something and or drink something? Right? Right. Because think about it, because regardless of what it is you smoking, literally anything that you're taking into your lungs other than oxygen is killing you, whether ever so slowly. The fact that you're doing that voluntarily, you're voluntarily committing suicide, means that you are not psychologically healthy. I can't go outside and stand in one place for 5 minutes without somebody smoking something, right? Vaping, cigarettes, weed, crack, who knows what else. And I don't think that's a local phenomenon. I could be wrong. I don't think that's a local phenomenon, right? Y'all would have to tell me. The fact that many men cannot get through the day without smoking weed, as many of our young men, is a sign of psychological distress. The fact that many of our young men are addicted to using the N-word and are addicted to what I would call N-word music is a sign of psychological distress. The fact that we have a massive obesity issue in the Black community is a sign of psychological distress, right? The fact that let's take this place as an example. You have a city like this where you have a decreasing Black population, but the Black population's crime, as far as the most heinous crimes, right, is against other Black people, where you're literally running out of Black people to commit crime against, but your crime is still limited to just yourself, is a sign of psychological distress, right? So we have all these different indications of psychological distress that we ignore, basically, so we can't see how bad things are. I'll say this. And Brother Carl Davis says, of course, Black people going through mental health crisis. They're claiming to be Indians. Yeah, well, we're having an identity crisis, which is an aspect of this. We touched on that last time. I'm gonna get more into that later on. I don't want to. I actually got Bob Rudy's book out. I may actually reach out to him and have him come on and just build upon that book, because it's really better for him to do it since he wrote it than for me to try to take it and interpret it. Being completely honest. Brother Crow says, also our youth are addicted to popping pills and sipping lean or some type of liquor. Yeah, I mean, I throw all that stuff in there. I throw it all in the same bag. Because the drug of choice sometimes is regional. Like I remember when the scissor stuff and the lean or whatever, that stuff started coming out of like Texas, Memphis, that area of the South. And, around here we didn't know what that was, but the music helped spread it. So, but it wasn't like any other region was any better. People just at that time just using different drugs. You know what I'm saying? My point being is that we have a massive unspoken issue that no one seems to want to publicly address for whatever reason. Whether they don't feel they have the credentials to speak on it, or whatever they're struggling with, so they don't want to talk about it. But whatever the case may be, none of that is really relevant. Like this new thing where you can't point out a problem because you have a different problem, like that's a new phenomenon in Black society. We don't care about it. Either you're saying something that's true or it's false. You know what I'm saying? We get caught up in who the message is coming from. It's true or it's false. It only matters who the message is coming from if they have some type, we believe they have some type of ulterior motive for what they're saying. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to start with this first article, not this article, but an article that is basically just going to shine light on an issue that's not new. This is the problem. So I hope y'all can see it. Can y'all see the article? It says young Black men are dying by suicide at alarming rates. So, well, it says we need to stop focusing on entertainment and focus on agriculture. Before they to raw vital. I mean, there's a lot of things we need to focus on. We need to focus on survival. You see what I'm saying? Focusing on agriculture is good, but we don't even have any land. We need to focus on survival in all aspects. That encompasses all areas of people activity. Just being completely honest. And then I forgot the brother's name, but there's a brother that has a quote that says the enemy must remain in focus as long as the enemy remains. So whatever else we focusing on, we gonna have to focus on that enemy and dealing with them, or being wiped out. Like those are the options. And I know y'all get tired of me saying that, but nothing's changed. So I'm gonna reiterate it. Just like Dr. Wellesley taught about racism, white supremacy every third Thursday for 20 years or whatever, because Black people hadn't never learned, so there's no need in teaching the class. I'm gonna keep saying we're being wiped out until we figure out, hey, I think he's right. Maybe we should do something. You know what I'm saying? That's gonna be part of the message. You know what I'm saying? And Baba Kamal Pambona talked about. He told us they want to kill you. You know what I'm saying? In various ways. You know what I'm saying? Mentally, spiritually, psychologically, you know what I'm saying, using electromagnetics, food, the water, the air, vaccines and medicines, and you name it. All of that is used for the purpose of removing Black people first, and at this point, a majority of people on planet Earth. And right, brother, but they want to make money in our death process, and we helping them make money in our death process. The hookah bar helps them make money in our death process. The vape helps them make money in our death process. The cigarettes help them make money in our death process. Alcohol helps them make money in our death process. The poison food, which at this point, unless you literally only eating what grows out of your yard, and you have to test the soil in your yard, or else that don't even matter. Because you could, if you're Black, you could be sitting on a radiator soil for all you know, right? If you're not doing that, you're eating poison food. It's just a matter of how much can I limit the amount of poison that I'm eating. And they're making money in our death process. I don't know. I don't think they're making money with whatever they're spraying in the air. I don't think that makes money. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know how this works, right? I guess you can make the argument that if a private company is doing the spraying and the government is doing the paying, then they still make money in our death process, right? He said, no, AI is going to discriminate against everybody because AI is nothing but the automated mind of the small hat. AI's only purpose is to come up with a better way to eliminate 95% of the people on the planet more efficiently. Period. End of discussion. That's all AI is. Any other use that they tell you AI is for is a lie. That's all it's for. It's to figure out how to remove 95% of the people on the planet quietly and get them to volunteer. Which I don't know why they need AI for that, because we already doing it. They got most people to volunteer in 2020, 2021, 2022. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Right? See, we're so used to being the only ones attacked that we don't realize, no, we're not the only ones under attack in this global genocide. We just at the head of the table. We just first on the menu, right? So because we're first on the menu, we don't look around to see who's second on the menu. We just like, oh man, we first on the menu. We don't stop to think. We're like, it's a long line behind us. What are these people here for? You see what I'm saying? So, but to get back to the point at hand, this is an aspect of the mental assault, if you will. Like how people aren't having a mental health crisis because of, my mother would say, the power of osmosis, right? Because psychological assault on our people. When I saw this article, right, I'm like, I remember, I believe it was Amos Wilson. I think it was Amos Wilson talking about, it was either Amos Wilson or Dr. Bobby E. Wright. I can't, my apologies, I can't remember. But Africans as a whole, but we're Africans in America are probably even ahead of Africans as a whole, brother, because we're just, it's so easy. Like, you know how they say, you know, some people are like, well, pay your small bills first and get them out the way and then go from there. We're like the small bill. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're small, we don't cost that much, we're not important. You know what I'm saying? He's like, we're like the $25 a month track phone. You're like, hey man, pay that, get that out the way. You know what I'm saying? So at least you got a phone, you ain't got nothing else. But I think it was Dr. Bobby E. Wright. He was talking about the crisis in black male suicide amongst the youth. It's like 1980 or something. It's like, what is that, 45 years ago? So this is not a new phenomenon. But this article is from a year ago. So let me get into this article. So you got ripped off because I'm only planning to be here at most, because I just realized the free plan of StreamYard, you only get 20 hours. I think I'm like halfway there already, and I did plan to do 2 more streams this week and 2 next week. So we'll be pushing up against the limit, so we'll see how that works. But let me get into this article real quick. It says, new study suggests racism, childhood trauma may be to blame for suicidal thoughts. And this is written, I believe this person, Michael Curtis. It says 1 in 3 rural black men reported they experienced suicidal ideation or thoughts of death in the past 2 weeks, reports a new study from the University of Georgia. Childhood adversity and racism may hold much of the blame. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for African Americans between the age of 15 to 24. So what should be the prime of people's lives is a stage where your life could end by your own hands. This is according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Suicide is particularly prevalent amongst Black men who died by suicide at a rate of more than 4 times that of Black women. It feels like nobody's talking about the problem and it's only getting worse. He says, I think we don't look at where the disparities are and who the individuals most at risk are when we're talking about suicide ideations. And Michael Curtis co-authored the study and a graduate of UGA's Human Development and Family Science Department in the College of Family and Consumer Sciences. Let's start right here. Why is the family and consumer sciences one thing? I mean, that's just something I observed, and I just think that is interesting, right? Why is the family and the consumer sciences under the same umbrella, if you will? Now, it says, we know it's bad, and particularly among young Black men. It says, historically, research has not invested a lot of time and effort in looking at what are the unique cultural contexts that make certain men more at risk for suicidal thoughts than other men. The study found that growing up in a low-resource environment and experiencing racial discrimination during young adulthood makes it difficult to engage in healthy, trusting relationships. Strong feelings of mistrust and caution towards social relationships can lead to feelings of isolation, which in turn can prompt thoughts of self-deletion. Let me say this, and this is not just for the young people. As men, if you're not married, I'm saying as adult men, if you're not married, right, how much physical touch do you get from a woman that's not sexual? Think about that. Think about the times where you were single. How many hugs did you get from a woman? How many back rubs did you get from a woman? How much affirmation do you get from a woman? You see what I'm saying? See, we don't look at the absence of that as a contributing factor, right? We look at the macro, the racism, the poverty. These things definitely affect the psychology of men in general, not just young men. Young men are more susceptible to the negative outcome, but they affect the men in general. But if you don't receive that, even as a grown man, how does it affect you psychologically? Right? Remember, those of you all who've been listening for a long time, or those of you all who saw my Death and Rebirth of the Goddess Black Woman lecture, I talked about many women do not have non-sexual relationships with Black men, and thus that's what leads to the confusion and what leads to their lack of understanding of how men are. And so you get a bunch of women that sit around and they talk about stuff and none of them have men in their lives. Like, because I've seen whole families where like the only men are like the sons, but there are no uncles, there are no older cousins, like it's weird to see, but I've seen it. I've dated women that's what their family is. You go to a family event, like where the rest of the men at? In that same way that the women are limited like that, men are limited not in, say, the number of women that are around them, but in a positive, affirming relationship with women, right? So you got more and more men coming out talking about problems that they have with their women, right? That's where it starts. You have more and more people who have grandmothers who are so young that they that grandmotherly love and wisdom they can't give because they haven't attained it yet. And so this breakdown of the family structure, where the family should be the covering for the young black male to grow up in, the protection to allow him to blossom into his full manhood, that support system has been short-circuited by the breakdown in the family. Also, we got to point up to the obvious. Not having your father your father, not a man, no, your father, not having your father in the home for the 18 years of which you grow to blossom to be a man is detrimental to your psychological health and development. Because simply put, there are things that only your father knows about you or about himself that he can pass to you, as he's passed half of his genetics to you, that will benefit you. So, as an example, right? Some men can't shave, or some men can't grow a beard. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a physical thing that we see. Who better to show you how to shave or what to use, or you know what I'm saying, or to not shave, or whatever the case may be, than your father, right? When you get to that age, you start growing, facial hair, whatever. You figure out what you want to do with it and things like that. You're more than likely, whatever you decide to do, your father has already gone through that. Y'all likely have similar hair types, based on genetics, and he can guide you in that process. Now, that seems like a very simple thing, but the reason I say your father is because if your mother marries a different man or whatever the case, and he takes stewardship of your life, right? You may have different hair types, or you may not have that issue, so he can't give you the same insight. It seems like a small thing, but it's a big thing when you're a young man, because it's part of your self-image. And so you want to look cool, and you want your skin to be clear and all that stuff. And hey, you know what I'm saying? You want the best advice. It might seem like a small thing, but it's a major thing in the life of a boy, right? As far as like the economic thing in this society is a big deal, because everyone gives the illusion, especially now in the social media age, because everyone gives the illusion that they're doing well. So if you're obviously not doing well, it's going to affect you psychologically. Not to mention the fact of course, interacting with your peers and, people saying things about you and stuff like that. We all remember you. You know how heartless youth can be. We know about the jokes and things like that. And you can, you can feel isolated, right? And what happens is, for young men especially, is you get the feeling of there not being a way out, or there not being a way to win, right? Like, you don't see a way to change the circumstances because you're a child or you're a young adult and you don't have control of your life yet. So how can things get better? Because I can't make them better, and the circumstances around me are the reason why the things are the way they are. So what's the solution? Right? And if you feel isolated, that makes it worse, because once you get in your own head, it's just like you're reinforcing the negativity, which leads you down the path to self-deletion. An aspect of this issue that we don't talk about is our um, our fractured identity and how that limits how we see ourselves. So if we saw ourselves as descendants of the divine, it's a lot harder to succumb to this process that leads to self-deletion than seeing ourselves as an N-word. Now, I know some people might want to disagree with that, but just take a moment to process the words that I have stated. You know what I'm saying? After you take that moment to process, now, you know what I'm saying, tell me that I'm wrong. I've seen how this music affects people. Like I've observed young dudes, they're listening to this music and they're yelling out the music, right? They got their headphones on, but they're yelling the music out. And they're acting out the music like they're shooting something in it. And it makes, like, just observing from the outside, it makes them look like, yo, this dude crazy. But it's the music. You see what I'm saying? It's the music. So one thing that, like, this isn't talking about is we're talking about the self-deletion, but the self-deletion that the music causes in the macro is the self-deletion of I'm going to attack the person that looks just like me or the person that reminds me of myself. I do not like myself. I do not love myself. So the reflection of myself, I'm going to attack that. I'm going to delete that. So even if I don't delete myself, I'll delete that which looks like me, right? Now, this has been going on again, isn't it? This has been going on 40 years at this point. That aspect is not new, but it's just another aspect of the psychological war that is taking toll on the minds of Black people, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this clip from Amos Wilson, and he's going to talk about the necessity of Black people being, in essence, mentally disturbed in order for the society to function in the way that it was designed to function, right? So let me pause that and then load up this clip.
I think has serious implications. I think it makes us question whether segregation itself was really the cause of the feeling of inferiority in Black children and in Black people, as we thought. It'll make us question also what I think was a naive belief that if we integrated with the whites, somehow they would stop seeing us as people of color or as Black people. If we integrated with the whites, somehow the world would stop dividing itself up in terms of race. That somehow the world's division of itself in terms of African people and European people, Black people and white people and so forth would somehow end. I think this study clearly implies then that this is not the case. I think it implies on a deeper level that inferiority in Black people is a political and social necessity. I often, in speaking to my colleagues and others who are interested in psychology, and of course in the current book that I'm trying to develop now, get across the idea of how Black psychology differs, particularly Black psychology at this time, differs from Eurocentric psychology. And I think one of the major ways that it differs from Eurocentric psychology is that when we talk about abnormality in the Black personality, when we talk about feelings of inferiority in Black people, feelings of self-hatred and self-alienation, feelings of incompetence, feelings of powerlessness and so forth that we hear a lot about, we must recognize that these feelings are a political and economic necessity. And we should start from that premise if we are to understand the psychology of Black people. I often put it this way. In order for us to be in the state that we are in today as people, we have to be out of our minds. We literally have to be crazy. It is necessary for us to be crazy. It is necessary for us to be backwards. It is necessary for us to be maladjusted. It is necessary for us to be disunited. It is necessary for us to be self-hating. It is necessary for us to be filled with an inferiority complex. In a world where the European is essentially about 10% of the world's population, if that 10% is to continue to rule over the other 90%, it must keep that 90% out of its mind. It must keep that 90% in a state of deception. It must keep that 90% filled with a feeling of powerlessness and incompetence. If this 10% is to continue to consume more than 60% of the world's resources, if this 10% is to continue to rob African, Asian, and other nations of their material wealth, then it must keep those people in a state of maladjustment. And this implies then that no matter how much integration you may bring about, the feeling of inferiority must be a constant in the Black personality. No matter how many people you run for president, no matter how many mayors you get elected, no matter how many people you get on the board of IBM and the others, the basic sense of inferiority, the basic sense of dependency must remain a constant in the Black mind. And I will indicate this, and I think this study, which occurred now some 40 years later, shows this to be the case. Dr. Clark shows surprise that after all of this time, this feeling is still there. I would not, and I don't think any student who's basically looked at the necessity of Black people being out of their minds as being the foundation of European dominance would not be surprised. I think it was quite predictable.
That was our barber master teacher, Dr. Amos Wilson, saying some 30 years ago now, I guess, that straight Black pride, Sister Asha, that it is a necessity of this society that Black people be insane. Now, if we go by the clinical definitions that Europeans use, we don't, like, no one will come out and say, hey, all Black people were crazy. Oh, thank you, brother. But if we use the we see that all Black people have an issue, right? And I will get to that later in the program, where I will bring on our elder who really helped me get into African-centered psychology, Dr. Kobe K.K. Cambone, who is very pretty much I would not even have an understanding of the concept without him. Right? I read several of his books. I didn't really feel like going and digging them up, which I probably will at a later date get deeper into this subject. But we have to understand that in every aspect of people activity, that there is a worldview that is strictly African, and it emerges from our experience on planet Earth, from our culture, from our history, from our traditions, from our genetic memory. And then there is the same for Europeans, and the same for Asians, and the same for indigenous Americans, and whatever other subset of people that exists. Whenever we try to exist outside of or without our worldview, at that point, that's where we fall off the rails, right? So in this society, the society tries to tell us now, like, and this is what's deep. This is what causes Black people to get confused and go crazy. The society tells us that everybody is the same while discriminating against Black people at the same time. You see what I'm saying? So the words are saying one thing, but the actions are saying another. So then that allows them to say that our problems are caused by ourselves, because of course everyone is the same, everyone is equal, everyone is treated the same, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. Right? Before the brother Tony. So we're told that, but the outcomes, right? The empirical evidence, the things that we can see every day, seemingly, like if you're on social media, because y'all send me this stuff every day. There's some Black man that was shot down by the police. There's some Black man that was beaten by the police. There's some Black man who's getting attacked by people who aren't the police, people that don't have any authority with it. Random Europeans who feel like they have authority over Black people, and so forth and so on ad nauseum. That's just the men. Then there's the women. Then there's the children. The children being attacked. Children being attacked in the school. Children being attacked outside the school. Children being attacked on the way to school. Children being attacked coming home from school. Right? By various Europeans, those in authority and not, and so forth and so on ad nauseum. Right? And this causes a cognitive dissonance. This causes a psychological break in the minds of many of our people, and that's why people hold on to this Americanism, because of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, and you can eventually get rich here and this and this and that and all this stuff, while obviously seeing we're being destroyed at the exact same time, right? So you're being destroyed, but you're looking and saying, but America is a place where it's gonna be your graveyard. That's what America is. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where things are headed. But many of our people can't psychologically process that, because they see themselves as American, as we talked about before, with that identity. So if you see yourself as American, then you start your history at what? Slavery, which means what? Everything else looks like progress. But it's not progress, because your written history goes back 8,000-10,000 years. Which means you certainly have made any progress. I had this discussion with a brother 15 minutes before I came here. Shout out to the brother. I don't even think I got his name, but shout out to the brother that I had a conversation with that is at the museum convention. That's in town for the museum convention. Right? I dropped some science and history on him that he didn't know, and he works for a museum. And I talked to him. I said, tell me if I'm correct in my understanding. The purpose of a museum is to tell a story. Well, if the story is being told by the criminal, will the crimes be included in the story? And he just started laughing. It's like, no, exactly. Right? So, you say Sister Asha said, you say, what are our thoughts on Black Americans reclaiming as they see it? Insanity. I'm gonna say this about America, and I'm gonna keep saying it. America is the great slave ship. The slave ship is sinking. To chain yourself to the bottom of the slave ship voluntarily when you know it's sinking is insanity. To chain yourself to the bottom of the slave ship, even if you don't know it's sinking, is still insanity. You see what I'm saying? until somebody brings me some archaeological evidence to back up what they're talking about, until they go to some of these sites and start digging some stuff up and doing DNA tests on these people, I don't pay these people any attention whatsoever. Barbara Astor Crazy said it himself. He said, okay, cool. If that's the case, bring me the archaeological evidence. And I ain't seen nobody break out one shovel yet. You see what I'm saying? So when I just look at these people, I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? We'll do. In fact, it's so funny you mentioned this, sister. I wish I had screenshot it. I saw a person say, he said, well, I don't know what we are, but I know I ain't no stinking African. See? Because he doesn't understand that the minute they can get you to disassociate from Africa, that's one less person that they have to fight, or the only place on earth that has all the resources that everyone on earth needs. You see what I'm saying? So just from a simple, logical, economic perspective, to disassociate yourself from the richest place on earth is insane. It's like being told you're related to whoever the richest black billionaire is, and that he will give you money if you prove you're related to him. And you like, man, I don't care about that dude. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're literally throwing away money. When that now, and here's what makes it worse. This is what's so crazy about it. And it's just, I don't know if you can see my Memorandum 46 lecture. The only copy of it I have is from the Straight Black Pride. It's from the Straight Black Pride event. What I could do is probably, I would have to review it, but I could just chop it down and I could sell that to you for like $20-$25. But the Memorandum 46 is, in a nutshell, is a document which states how to, government document, allegedly, that now again, brother, I didn't film that. You gotta talk to Jenny. You never asked Jenny about it. He filmed it. I didn't film it. But there's a government document that basically outlines a plan to separate black people in America from black people in Africa. And it goes back to 1978, right? So I have done a lecture on that and broken down and put the information out of, I basically put the document on trial, in essence. Right, I'm talking about from the convention, right? And so when I did it, I realized, or at least I hadn't seen anyone else do it. I just didn't see anyone else do the research on where it was found. I didn't see anyone do the research on who the person was, whose office they found it in, right? So they couldn't ask that person because that person was deceased. So they asked the person that allegedly wrote it, and he denied it. Well, of course he denied it. Why would he? Why would he admit to that? Right? So now he's deceased, right? So I would do it again, except I don't have a venue. Like, if I do it again, I would not do it in this city. It's like someone, again, like I said before, with the Goddess Black Woman lecture and the African versus everyone. Well, no, not the African versus everyone, but like the Goddess Black Woman lecture and the Memorandum 46. I think I've said it before. I would not do those lectures here again in DC. I'll do, like, if somebody wanted to bring me out to their city, I would do them there. If you have a venue, I'll do it there. But like, I won't do those here again. I've done them before, and I don't think I'll get people to come out to that. But let me get reared back on track. So we must have had some Indians in here, because The numbers have gone down 50% since we started talking about that. So I guess we got some people that saying they ain't no stinking Africans. Well, that's cool. Yep, I'm gonna give me 15 minutes, brother, and I get into the lost tapes. But back to this article real quick. Cause I kind of weird, of course, but it says that the researchers followed more than 500 African American men from the late teens to the early 20s in rural Georgia. Says that 3 separate times over the course of several years, the men were asked to reflect on their childhood, including economic hardships and traumatic experiences. Some of the questions included experienced physical or emotional abuse, witness a relative being abused, felt loved and special, had enough to eat, and access to medical care. Like these are like the basic things. It was crazy is they went in rural Georgia, but if you had gone into the inner city, what would be the difference? He said, we found when black men were exposed to childhood adversity, they may develop an internal understanding of the world as somewhere they are devalued. And then, I mean, that's the reality. I'm gonna be completely honest. What we have to tell our children, this is the problem. We will not tell our children the truth. Here's the reality of what you need to tell a young black man. You are considered an enemy in this nation because of your potential to solve the problems of black people. Period. You, yes, you, young man who are 8 years old, you have the potential to solve the problems of black people in America. And thus, you will be, even if you're not seen, even if they don't tell you now, you will be seen as an enemy to this nation as you get older. Because you have the potential to solve the problems of black people in this country. And they don't want you to do that because everyone makes money off the problems of black people in this country. No one wants us to be functioning correctly because everybody will lose money. If we were functioning correctly in our, think about it, if we were functioning correctly in our relationships between men and women, how many podcasts would just go out of business? How many podcasts would they had to hang up their mic? Because black men and black women would be spending far more time loving each other, and we don't have to ask you no questions because you ain't got no answers anyway. Right? Mic sales and computer sales would go down. Rentals on studio time would go down because we'd be functioning properly. How many businesses would go out of business if our sisters love their natural hair, their natural skin, their natural eyelashes? How many people go out of business? How many people, thank you, sister, for that. 99 cents super chat. How many business would this is crazy. All right. I'm gonna relate a story. How many businesses will go out of business if black women cook fried chicken again? I'm like, DC, what that got to do with anything? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a story. I remember when churches and Popeyes came to this area, the DC area. Before that, my grandmother cooked fried chicken basically every Sunday. I guess there was some pork chops and some other stuff thrown in, some fried fish too. But the family cooked fried chicken. I go to my other grandmother's house, they cooking up a smorgasbord. It's like, it was, to be completely honest, it was literally like Thanksgiving there every Sunday. if we went back to that tradition, Popeye's going out of business. Regardless of and the brother talk about the quality of the food, regardless of the quality of the food back then that was cooked at home was still better than the food now that we buy outside of our homes. In fact, it's better than the food now that we buy and cook inside our home. Being completely honest, there's less chemicals in that stuff than it is in this stuff. Right? So, just doing that, how many businesses would we put out of business? And there's so much that if we were operating in our mind, our correct mind, how many businesses would go out of business if we didn't value European labels and stuff? You see what I'm saying? Like, how much stuff would just go out of business if we didn't value? I don't even know what the newest European stuff is that people like that's supposed to be with it. That stuff will go out of business. Before Biggie Smalls, nobody knew nothing about the coochie sweaters. Then all of a sudden it became a thing. Now, one of the worst things Biggie Smalls did was just pump up all these European labels and whatnot. But if we think about it, go back to my Adidas. Run DMC gave Adidas a free commercial. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying all that to say that us operating at our maximum capacity psychologically is detrimental for not only this society, but for all the people within it, who not even people at the top, right? Just the people that come in our community. The Arabs that come in certain communities, the Asians that come in certain communities, that own shops in our communities, the Jewish people that own shops in our communities, the Indians that own shops in our community. Am I missing anybody? Like, when I see the Hispanics, they have shops, but they're the only people respectful enough that they just have their shop, and then they say, if we're gonna have our shop, we're gonna have it where we live. Now, if you see a couple of Spanish signs go up in your community, oh yeah, they about to flood that place. You know what I'm saying? And then it'll be their community. But they're the only ones that I've seen that don't come and try to open up a taco stand in Southeast. You know what I'm saying? But everybody else they've been robbing us blind. But if we were operating psychologically in our right mind, all of these people would lose out. So it's not just, the people that we think of at the top, quote unquote, white people who benefit from our psychological dysfunction. The vast majority of people that we interact with benefit at minimum, economically from our psychological dysfunction. Right? And we don't even think of it that way, because we don't even think that loving yourself and wanting to support yourself economically and wanting to be around yourself and wanting to marry yourself, and I say yourself, meaning your people, we don't think of that as being psychologically normal, psychologically healthy, but it is. We're doing the opposite, which is not psychologically healthy. And we don't even realize it as a collective of people. Right? So with that, what I'm going to do, take this quick break. I'm going to play the lost tapes. And then I will come back and finish up the second half of the broadcast.
Now, we're gonna go and talk about AIPAC. What is AIPAC? The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC. What does AIPAC do? AIPAC is the gangster with a whole lot of money that says, I'm gonna buy you and pay you money, and you're gonna make decisions that I want you to make. You're gonna do as I tell you, because I got my hands in your pockets. And they attached to people like Jeffrey Epstein, who take videos of the people that are supposed to be our representatives, and as they take those videos, they hold them hostage and say, vote as I tell you to vote. Do as I tell you to do.
I didn't even, the concept. I saw Naeem Akbar talking that black talk he gave, and I was out there telling everybody, yo, this dude gay. You remember back in the 90s, he was hating me. Oh, this dude gay, man, we can't do this. You can't be up there talking black and be gay too. I was like, okay, he out the way, no, we're not doing this. I'm saying this because I did not imagine a time, little old me from Southeast, where if they tell us to take a jab, stick ourselves, I'm gonna be the only one that wanna say something. Maybe the brother out in Whitaker, brother Darren, we got a few brothers, but I'm talking about like, I'm thinking whatever they tell us to do, we got black people who studied under these people, we gonna say no. Or we gonna at least wanna investigate. I'm thinking it'll always be that way. I'm thinking if somebody's pushing this stuff, R. Kelly molesting children, we're gonna deal with this dude. I'm thinking everybody's gonna agree with that, because you don't mess with children.
That's right.
That's what I thought was, that's just how I thought we were, and that is who we are intrinsically, but I'm saying, I didn't imagine a world where I'm saying, don't vote for this dude, it's a trick. Come on, y'all. He's a mulatto who didn't grow up around black people. He a gay dude. He gonna push homosexuality. Y'all can't see this? I'm thinking, I'm telling y'all before he get in office, what are you talking about? And people who are the hardest nosed people in African nationalism, the hard ones, looking at me, nah, you can't do that, dude. Y'all don't see this? I'm actually the only one that's gonna say, yo, you don't see. And then when he gets in and does what I say he does, okay, I saw. You messed up the first time. Okay, I saw. I'm thinking, okay, but now he going back for office. He done already made gay marriage legal. All right, now you get it. The dude, I told you he was a punk, he was a gump in the beginning. I still couldn't conceive. No, dude, if you're looking for somebody else to do it, you ain't studied the lessons of history. When you're passionate and pulled to do something and can't stop, it's a message being given to you. Ain't nobody coming. You gotta believe in yourself, because somebody decided that you was supposed to do something. So you can't turn it off and stop looking for people. You just gotta do what you do. We looked in the past, 1972. I was born in 1973. I'm almost 50 years old. I'm 50 in December. A year before I got here, they must have known I was coming. They said, let's get this thing out here now before you get here. They did what's called the Gay Rights Platform of 1972. This is just official document, sharing information. If you go look it up online for yourself, they're making it difficult to find. I don't know if people have been noticing this, but things that you used to get easily go and put it on the internet and find them, you can't find this stuff no more. There's a bunch of stuff you can't find. But I'm gonna bring your attention to just one. It's a bunch of stuff, all of it's aimed at children. Sex education to children, adoption, gay adoption of children. But there's one that's most important for what we're talking about today. And they break it down from the federal level and the state level. On the state level, they say every single state, they want laws repealing all laws governing the age of sexual consent. I'm gonna say that again. They want the repeal of all laws governing the age of sexual consent. Meaning a newborn baby, they want it to be legal
to have sexual contact with a newborn baby. What year did I say? 1972. That's 51 years ago. Fast forward 21 years from then to 1993. In the interest of producing that result, they had right downtown, 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes if there's no traffic, go right up here East Capitol, go all the way up the road, you run right into it. They had the 1993 Gay Rights March on Washington. Let's see what that was about.
Check one.
Did y'all hear what they just said? So I need to play that again. He said, don't play it again. He said, no, thank you. All right, I want to do this again. They said, we're young, we're queer. We're going to do what? We're going to rule the world. Now remember, 21 years before that, what did they say that they wanted for children? Repeal all laws governing the age of sexual consent. They want to have sex with children and make it totally legalized. 21 years after they said that, they said, we're young, we're queer, we're going to rule the world. That was in 93. This is 30 years after that. So they've had 30 years to say we're queer, we're going to rule the world, which at that point they said, we haven't gotten to the point where we rule the world, because if they did, they wouldn't be saying that. They would say, we're young, we're queer, and we rule the world. They didn't say that. We're young, we're queer, we're going to rule the world and have it our way.
All right, brothers and sisters, I am back. Again, I'm your host, DC Radical One. Follow me on Instagram at DC.Radical1, on Twitter at DC_Radical_ONE, on OTW2, which is a Black-owned platform at DC Radical One. And you can donate via Cash App, $sign DC Radical One. Also, if you would like to purchase, the payment is made via Cash App, and you can email me and let me know which of the lost tape you would like of the list of 5. To buy the entire set, well, to buy one video is $25. To buy the entire set is $100, which is 5 videos plus the bonus video. No one else has these because I filmed them myself, and that's why no one else has them. So let me get on to the next article that I want to get into. And again, let me know if y'all can hear me before I get started, because I don't want to get started and then y'all tell me, hey man, we missed every single thing that you said. So again, give me a 1 if y'all can hear me, and I will proceed forward from here. Let me see if this is the one I want to. No, this is the one I really want to deal with. Hold on. This is data dealing with, and it's not centered around Black people, but it's just in general around mental illness and substance abuse in this nation. All right, thank you, brothers. And what I found interesting when I looked at it is my perception, the anecdotal evidence is proven by data and statistics that were presented. So this is says on July 28th, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, let me say that real quick, released their findings on the annual National Survey of Drug Use and Health, which provides data on rates of substance use and mental illness at the national, state, and local level. This recent report demonstrates critical data from 2024, which is just last year. They've been used by county health and mental health service administrators and local policymakers as they work together to understand and address ongoing behavior and mental health crises, plural, in America. We're going to look at some of the data. It says that 16.7%, approximately 1 out of 6% of the U.S. population aged 12 or older, nearly 50 million individuals met the criteria for a substance use disorder. This is similar to the 2023 report at 17.1%. So, according to their data, 1 in 6 people in America qualifies as having a substance abuse. Excuse me. Hold on for a second. My bad. Qualifies for having a substance abuse issue. Right? So these are people who are admitting it, or you see what I'm saying? We know that anytime you just do self-identity of a problem in people, is much lower. I usually go with a double rate. So probably you talking about 1 out of every 4 people has a substance abuse issue in America. That's not including just Black people, right? Well, for now we'll go with the 1 out of 6, which is still crazy to me because it says age 12, right? Now, look at this. It says 23.4% of adults aged 18 or older, some 61.5 million people, experience any mental illness, with about 5.6% reporting serious mental illness. So 1 out of 20 people having serious mental illness, but nearly 1 in every 4 people having self-report having mental health issues. Again, now think about this. Here's what's crazy. You want to know what they're not reporting as mental health issues? A man wearing a dress, a woman saying that she's a man. Those aren't even included in the mental health issues. Homophilia, transgenderism are no longer mental health issues according to the diagnostic book. So that's not included. So in essence, 1 in 4 people not including that. So if you say, well, no, I'm gonna go by the old psychological manuals and include that, you're probably talking about 1 in 3, one in the DSM. Thank you, brother. I couldn't remember it. If you go back to the DSM-5, you're talking about probably 40% of people with mental health issues in America. Think about that. This is overall. This isn't just black people. It's like when Dr. Amos Wilson says that America is a crimogenic society. Well, America is also a psychologically sick society. So if you're in the society and you're psychologically sick, you are in essence normal. In an insane asylum, unless you are the staff, it's normal to be crazy. You see what I'm saying? Like this, according to their data and statistics, is literally a giant insane asylum. This is their data. This is not my data, right? A bunch of America's a bunch of junkies and crazy people. According to this, it says for the first time that the 2024 NSD-UH included measures of generalized anxiety disorder. The results show that 1 in 5 individuals reported symptoms of general anxiety disorder, with 7% reporting moderate to severe symptoms and 14% with mild symptoms. It says 15.4% of adolescents 12 to 17 reported experiencing major depressive episode. That's 4 million young people. That's not just black people, young black people. Right? So, I mean, to me, and maybe it's just me, but these statistics alone are alarming. Right? Now, according to this, they're saying that a slight dip in attempts at self-deletion, but as we saw, those attempts, that decline does not include black youth. So I won't even really get into that. Then we talk about the opioid situation, but I thought it had more on substance abuse in here. Maybe that's another. Maybe that is was that another? I thought I had a website, and maybe I didn't bring it up. My apologies for that. I thought I had one outlining more substance abuse issues. Like the numbers were crazy. Let me go back here. Now it says Black Americans struggle with lack of mental health care across. Come on now. What are y'all doing? You trying to get me to donate and you can't see that. But we struggle with here's the issue, right? Even if we had access to more mental health support based upon their clinical diagnoses of our problems, they would not be beneficial to us because it would be coming from a European paradigm and a misunderstanding of the natural psychology of black people. Right? Now you're going to say, DCO, what do you mean the natural psychology of black people? People are people. That is incorrect. Genoculturally, meaning genetically encoded culture, genoculturally, black people and white people are different. Like you really, if you just try to be what's the word I'm looking for? If you really just try to be an objective observer, which is virtually impossible, okay? If you just look at the two peoples, we are not the same. I don't care what you're talking about, right? Not just the way we look, but the way we walk, the way we talk, what we eat, so forth and so on. We are obviously different people, right? Why it is, why the obvious truth is taboo to admit is crazy. I was watching a brother. I wish I could remember the brother's name, but he's been on a bunch of different podcasts, and he was talking about something called the blank slate theory, which is a European concept. But he's a I believe he's a psychologist, or maybe he's a therapist. But so he's not from that. He doesn't understand the African worldview, but it's a European concept which basically says that people are a blank slate when they're born, and then they experience pain on that slate, which that is incorrect. That is false, right? But that's been put out in order to manipulate people and get them to believe certain things. You come here as the sum aggregate of that which came before you. Plain and simple. And there is a thing such as genetic memory. Right? You can see it with dogs, where a dog will go to the bathroom and then they'll use their hind legs to cover up where they went to the bathroom. No one teaches a dog to do that. Dog just does it because it's part of its genetic memory. This is how we use the bathroom. Oh, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? So if dogs have genetic memory, how can people not have genetic memory? But if you say people have genetic memory, then you have to start looking at and examining the behavior of Europeans. Like if you're black, you start looking at their behavior, you're like, oh no, they didn't do this because of economic reasons or all the excuses we make for them. They did this because this is who they are. And once you accept that reality, then you have to approach everything differently. So we don't want to admit that, because then we don't want to accept that reality. You see how that works? So when they tell us, hey, everybody's the same, or everybody comes here the same, and blank slate, blah blah blah, then we just simply say, okay, cool, because we don't want to deal with the reality of the situation we're in, right? Like if somebody calls your house and say, hey, the person you're married to is a serial killer, you don't want to believe that, because you're like, the ramifications of that. It's the same thing with our situation here. Now, what I want to do real quick is I want to play Dr. Cambone as he breaks down his thesis on the difference between the African and the European personality and the ramifications of that information. So here we go with this Dr. Kobe Cambone.
It was clear to me that there's something psychological about African descent people deeply rooted in our souls, in our systems, as black people, in terms of its cultural content, its spirituality. No matter where we are on planet Earth, there's this Africanity within us. So I wanted to capture that as a part of understanding the motivational system behind African American behavior. Invented this construct called African self-extension orientation. I was trying to refer to this elasticity, this fluidity of the African spirit, how it moves at a spiritual level, and how this energy in African people is always trying to extend itself beyond the physical boundaries of the individual to connect with other individuals or the collective of individuals. And so they had to have a genetic property in my thinking, because it was something that was fundamental to African descent people. I thought this construct sort of best captured that idea, and so I call it African self-extension orientation. The second construct in the model called African self-consciousness, I saw as necessary to explain what I call the efficacious functioning in a more African-centered way of the motivation in African American behavior. This requires some level of input from social experience to direct this Africanity, this spirituality, in a way that it's empowering for the individual and the African collective. So these two key constructs, African self-extension orientation and African self-consciousness, became the core of my thinking about the African American personality. That's the basic core of the model that I was trying to articulate and capture as a way of understanding what should we conceive of as the normal way, the normal natural way that African people would function. A third aspect of the theory was to explain abnormality. deviance in our behavior. If we look at this basic model of normalcy and naturalness, we find that it's elusive in our people, again, because of many of these interfering factors that I've just mentioned. So I introduced this construct called culture misorientation to provide a paradigm that speaks to contemporary African American behavior, given the reality of contemporary African behavior, in terms of the manifestations of the trauma that we see in almost every aspect of our existence. And culture misorientation essentially means the internalization of a European worldview or European consciousness in African descent people, which leads them to approach life, to approach adaptability in the world from the basis of a Eurocentric conception of that universe. This is not something that just comes to Black people. We already articulated what we think is natural and normal about Black people. This is really the outcome of the traumatization process of European oppression of African people. They impose this Eurocentric cognitive structure on African people through all institutions, education, religion, you name it. And in so doing, we approach the world as a black-skinned European. And that's the basic nature of what I mean by culture misorientation. We have internalized an incorrect cultural orientation. It leads us to engage in behaviors that are maladaptive for an African person in terms of these behaviors. While they may lead to accommodation with the reality and environment that we're in, they don't lead to African empowerment. They don't even lead to empowerment of the African reality. And African self-consciousness, core of our personality, because it is socialized, it's vulnerable to cultural modification. So it can be modified from its natural state by the institutional bombardment of Eurocentrism. And so what happens is that we develop an alien self-consciousness that's sort of superimposed upon our natural African self-consciousness. And if our natural African self-consciousness is not being reinforced through socialization structures that are natural to African-centered reality, what we have is something similar to what W.B. Du Bois talked about in his dual consciousness construct. Two forces, these two motivational forces, one Eurocentric and one African-centered. And because the African-centered one is not being reinforced, not being nurtured, it becomes weaker, severely weakened, and the Eurocentric one it dominates the system. And so that's what I articulate is going on inside the mindset of the African person under conditions of culture misorientation.
So that was Dr. Kobe KK Cambone, who I believe 2018, I believe. If you have a chance to get his books, if you can find them, his brother is really profound. His work is just phenomenal, and it's just it's worth digging into. My brother You Got Ripped Off says that Black people not only suffer from food deserts, but we also suffer from intellectual deserts, spiritual deserts, and morality deserts. Well said, brother. So let me see if this is this isn't the one I wanted. And there was okay. Well, since I cannot find, let me look at this right here. This talks about Dr. Cambone. It says the radical Black psychology. Dr. Kobe KK Cambone says in the early 1970s, the newly formed Association of Black Psychologists had quite a job in front of them. Decades of research conducted by the primarily white and Eurocentric scientific establishment had conceptualized any differences between Black and white people through a deficit lens. That is, as signs that Black people were in some way inferior to white people. It says, as we discussed in our first Black History post, Black psychologists can be loosely divided into three groups based on the answer to the question of how to grapple with the legacy of white psychology. It says the traditionalists are those who accept the general theories of the human mind set forth by, and it keeps saying white psychology, but we know that psychology as a science is a largely Jewish of Jewish origin. Like, they are the premier psychologists that are cited in essence universal, right? Freud and those people. So it goes definitively to a specific group of people. So it says the reformers are those who strongly critique the limits of white psychology while arguing that some of his findings could still apply to the black mind experience. And lastly, it says the radicals, those who sought to decentralize whiteness and psychology entirely by conceiving a novel black psychology founded on African thought and culture. The traditionalists and reformers are most likely to be cited in modern day psychological research, at least among the flagship journals in the field. However, the vision of the radicals as embodied in the transformative work of Dr. Kobe Cambone presents the most ambitious view of what a truly black psychology might look like. Now, I want to say this real quick for us to understand the black psychological concept. People will look as if, and this person kind of stated it, as if black psychology is new, right? A new field of study. But in reality, African people going back to Nile Valley civilization 8,000 years ago studied psychology, but it was part of a greater framework within the entire cultural construct of Mayat. Truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity. So we have taken a piece of a universal principle of balance and harmony and taken out one aspect of it to study, because the European, that's how they do things. They break things down and identify them individually. The African attacks things as a collective. So like in European science, is the reason why you go to the doctor, and unless you're morbidly obese, they don't ask you about your diet. But from an African-centered point of view, it's like, what are you eating? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you know what I'm saying? Are you getting enough loving from your woman? Like, all of those things are affecting your health. Doctor doesn't ask you, the European doctor doesn't ask you, right? Because he's not looking at the collective, he's looking at the individual, whereas the African looks at the collective. So literally, we're diametrically opposed in our worldview as comes to health as an example. But if you look at economics, you look at any sphere, the African worldview and the European worldview are generally diametrically opposed, right? So literally, as black people, all we have to do is study Europeans and do the opposite, and we'd be ourselves. that would be the easy way to do it. But yeah, when you think that you're them, except with a tan, then you do what they do. What they say, when in Rome, do as Romans do it. That's what we're doing. It says Dr. Kobe Kazembe Kalonji Cambone, born Joseph A. Baldwin, was the ninth of 10 children. The son of a school teacher and a coal miner turned Baptist minister. The name he chose for himself is derived from the Kikuyu group in East Africa and translates as the wise and victorious warrior of the people. It says, working as an aide in state psychiatry hospital in the early 1960s, he became fascinated by psychology and resolved to pursue a career in the field. His education was interrupted by the draft in 1965, where he served 2 years as a medical specialist in Alaska. I don't know how you swing that, but hey, better than going to Vietnam to get blown up. The GI Bill allowed him to finish his undergraduate work at DePaul University, where he met Dr. Bobby E. Wright, a brilliant brother. A lifelong, he says lifelong, we don't use the word mentor, but you understand, an towering figure in black psychology in his own right. And met him in 1975. He completed his PhD in personality and social psychology at the University of Colorado in Boulder. His work hit the ground running in 1976 article, Black Psychology and Black Personality, Some Issues for Consideration. In his landmark work, Cambone argued that the nascent field of Black psychology needed to decide if it was defined as research conducted by Black psychologists or research on Black psychology and its personality. He championed the latter path himself, believing that Black people around the world possess an African self-extension orientation or an unconscious but deeply felt experience of Blackness. This trait is mirrored on a conscious level by African self-consciousness, which reflects acknowledgement of oneself as African, along with a commitment to the liberation, improvement, and respect of other African individuals and the larger African community. He says Black individuals who are low in African self-consciousness may suffer from cultural misorientation, as was stated previously, a phenomenon where Eurocentric norms are internalized, such as believing that men can be women and women can be men. Of course, I'm adding that myself because that's where we see it, the focus and push on it. Now, says says the norms are harmful, not simply because they are racist, but also because they do not match the cultural background of Black individuals, creating an internal state of conflict. Dr. Cambone's work investigated these topics with exacting methodological rigor. He developed and carefully validated scales of these constructs and empirically investigated the links between them. Overall, the body of research examining his theories has typically found that higher levels of ASC are related to higher well-being, fitting the idea that Black individuals who prioritize their shared cultural roots tend to flourish until, of course, you come under attack by the enemy because they see that you are affecting other people. It says beyond his research, Dr. Cambone achieved remarkable success in building an academic legacy. In 1982, he was elected as the president of the Association of Black Psychologists and hired as the chair of the psychological department at Florida A&M University. Shout out to FAMU, currently the highest ranking HBCU in the United States. And man, what's crazy is I could have followed that path because I was at that institution for a while, and I had no idea that this field of study existed at the time. I'm just quite disappointed. Brother, you got ripped off said Psychopathic Racial Personality by Dr. Bobby E. Wright. It is small read, but essential reading material for those seeking an insight into the European modus operandi. Absolutely. I wish I had a clip of Dr. Wright I somewhere. Maybe probably on an older computer I do, but I do not have on this computer. Those not familiar with Dr. Bobby E. Wright, oh man, just get familiar. And it is my understanding that Dr. Wright actually taught our brother in Chicago, the chairman Fred Hampton, chairman of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party. So, you know, you have those connections there. But I just wanted to play that so to get an understanding that when we're dealing with this area of study, dealing with it from just the European paradigm is insufficient to solve the problems of Black people. But we do have people who have made it their life's work to give us an understanding of ourselves on a deeper psycho-spiritual level, right? So I always tell people, before you try to reinvent the wheel, see if the work was done before you and build upon that. You know, we have a lot of people who come late to the party and try to act as if they invented something and try to reinvent the wheel, when a lot of times the foundation has been laid and all you have to do is build upon that foundation, right? So, let me see. There's another article that I want to get to, and I'm just going to see. Oh, well, is this one? this one just deals with basically young people who identify as LGBT. And one of these, okay, now this is the one I want to deal with first. I want to deal with this because I saw this and I'm like, okay, we got an issue here. It says, and I just want to get to the point. It says in 2022, remember the discussion I had about what human rights was. This is a human rights campaign report. They say that they partnered with University of Connecticut to survey 12,000 young people who identify as LGBT, with roughly 12,000 of them being Black people, right? 1,200, excuse me. So 10% of the people were Black people, who are youth or Black youth who consider themselves LGBT. It says that according to recent data from their study, 24% of Black high school age youth identify as LGBT. That's 1 in 4 Black youth identify as LGBT. And according to this other study, that 24% smoke and vape and use drugs at a higher rate than regular youth. So our youth are identifying as something that they're not, and then using drugs to solve the mental anguish that is taking place with this identification and whatever may have triggered this identification. And we're not even allowed to talk about it because we aren't in control of our own children. You see what I'm saying? So Dr. Amos Wilson said one time that nature abhors a vacuum. And he says, whenever you create a vacuum, so you create a hole in the psychology of the African child, it will naturally be filled by whatever is surrounding. So what is surrounding the African child today? The boys can be girls and girls can be boys. That's what's surrounding the African youth today. The Black youth in America. That's what's surrounding. So because they don't have a foundation in understanding African history and culture, understanding their or even understanding just your history and culture here as a Black person in America, not having that understanding of that history and that culture and those traditions and that identity, by having that stripped out, then it's filled with the next thing that comes along, which in this case is LGBT, or quote unquote just being an American, or a random Black person, or sometimes your identity is your block, the street you live on, or your corner of the city that you're from. Your identity is you from Compton, right? You go back and you remember Minister Society when he said, "I ain't no African, I'm from Crenshaw Mafia." So he claimed, the young man claimed, ready to claim a neighborhood over a continent. And many adults now are the same way. Because, as Dr. Cambone said, we're culturally misoriented. And thus that makes functioning as a collective. Did I say boys? What did I say, brother? I didn't say Boys in the Hood, but yeah, I meant Boys in the Hood with Cuban Gooding Jr. Ice Cube. And yeah, that movie. Thank you. But our cultural misorientation makes it virtually impossible for us to move collectively in a positive manner. Right? That's why it's dangerous to have any identifications that do not take in the completeness of who we are as a people. Trying to cram our identity into the last 270 years, or the last 400 years, or the last 500 years, as opposed to starting with the last 10,000 years, leaves us woefully incomplete. But if you don't understand your history, you don't understand the depth of what it means to be African. If you've taken your African identity from your European and what he tells you being African is, or if you take it from an African who takes it from the European, right? And just because somebody from the continent doesn't mean that they are psychologically African. There's as much cultural misorientation on the continent as there is in America. Because some of the biggest Christians who worship white Jesus in the world are on the continent. Way in this day and time, they way worse than us with worshiping white people. Which I know is crazy to say, but it's the truth. We think black women in America are having spazzing out and having a fetish for European males. Go to Uganda. Some of them women black as 150 million midnights and love Europeans. Right? And Brother Jenny goes to different countries, and one of the first things they talk about is, hey man, what do we do with our women? They love white men. He barely finished his meal before they start asking him that. He's like, oh my goodness, here we go. Here we go. And we're having that thing now. And let me slide slightly off course. Man, why ain't nobody tell me that Serena Williams out here looking crazy? I saw a picture of her, man. I guess it. I mean, it's supposed to be Serena Williams. I didn't even recognize her. What y'all tell me? She's with that. She on that Ozempic after she got with Urugu. Man, come on, bro. She look like she on rocks. But that's cultural misorientation. That, like, what Serena Williams is going through after she's with that Urugu is literally the definition. It's the physical manifestation. You're like, well, DC, can you show me what cultural misorientation looks like? Yeah, Serena Williams. Go back to Catsuit Serena to now. See the not the progression, but the decline. You can see the decline psychologically, physically, and spiritually. You can see it manifest. So if you want to know what it looked like, she's unfortunately a perfect example. So with that, brothers and sisters, I think I'm going to go ahead and close out. We'll be doing SBL talk this Thursday. What's the day? Tuesday. Yeah. So I plan to do SBL talk this Thursday. There is a chance that I will come on tomorrow. I do not currently have a topic. If anybody has a topic that they think is compelling or they want to discuss, I'm gonna give you all a few minutes. You know what I'm saying? You can put that in the chat, or you can DM me on Instagram. Also, speaking of DMing me on Instagram, you know, I had a segment called Ask DC, where if you ask me a question, I answer the question in YouTube video form. I'm still doing that. So if you want to email me, dc.radical_1@protonmail.com and ask me a question, or you DM me on Instagram. You know, my Instagram is going to call dc.radical1. You can do that, and I will answer it. If it's a compelling enough question, I'll answer it in YouTube form, and I'll shout you out for asking the question. Also, for this week, anyone that wants to donate, you can I ask you for right now to donate via Cash App for this week. Cash App, of course, is $DC Radical Woman. And lastly, again, if anyone wants to purchase the Lost Tapes or the Goddess Black Woman lecture that I've done, or the Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad lecture, Africa versus Everybody Hidden Enemies, shoot me an email or DM and I'll send that out to you as well. So with that, brothers and sisters, I don't see you. Brother Pro says we as a collective, are mentally and spiritually sick all over the world. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Like, that's, at this point, it almost goes without saying. But it is what it is. And also, I forgot, man, Saturday, the major fight, I guess you say, definitely the fight of the year. Terrence Bud Crawford, pound for pound king, 2 weight division champion, undisputed champion in 2 weight divisions, will be going up against Canelo Steroids Alvarez, excuse me. Saturday night, this Saturday. So I will probably do a video on that. Y'all know I don't normally do YouTube videos on boxing unless something weird happens, but I'll probably do one on that because I'm gonna be completely honest. If you want to see the racism come out of especially Mexicans, have a boxing match between a black person and a Mexican, and you're definitely going to see that. You said a whole program. Well, the only case that I know that's definitely in the course right now is and they haven't made much progress in the case, which is weird, is the Mahogany Jackson case. They haven't made almost no progress in that case. These things take so long. So that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that's still in the course, brother. And I was just going to do that individually as a radical report. But if you can think of any other ones, because I did the Sade Robinson case. I don't think anything major happened with the case of the sister in Mexico that they attacked. So I don't know. Well, I don't think I ever covered that. So I never even covered that. So that's why I feel like doing an update, because I never covered it in the show. When you say Brother Crow, he said a show about warriors and sister warriors and fast brother. I could. That's more like a lecture than a show, to be honest. I've named a lot of people just in recent shows. I just haven't gone deep into their background. But yeah, in order to do that, the work that will be involved, that's not a show. That's a lecture, because it would take more depth than I have here, or more. I would have to go more in depth and take more time, and I would have to talk about things that I can't necessarily talk about on YouTube. Excuse me. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't do that, bro. That would have to be a lecture. And at this point, no one is calling for that type of information. Nobody's really interested in that information because we hate ourselves. Just being completely honest, right? Now, if you could get me somewhere with a bunch of young people, I can't even. Brother, it'd be hard to talk about the N. I was going to do something on the N word. I just hadn't figured out how to format it and still be able to get it past YouTube. Because you can't talk about the N word without talking about you know who. Right? You know what I'm saying? So So yeah, I thought about it. I had thought about it for a while, but I just haven't figured out how to do it. So that's been the largest impediment, is that I keep running up against that brick wall. So more than likely, if I could, I'll let y'all know you'll see the notification up by 1-2 o'clock if I'm gonna come on tomorrow. First of all, I'm gonna have to go across town and go see if they got my microphone. This is one other place it could be, so I actually gotta go across town to see if it's there. Then if it's not there, then I gotta go even further from where I'm at now to see if it's there. So, boy. Yeah, I don't even mess. I don't be talking to AI, man. I ain't got time to talk to AI. Because it'd be lying. I just might as well go talk to a random. Anyway. So, I'm gonna do what Europeans say. I'm gonna sleep on it, and if I come up with something, I'll let you all know. And if not, then I'll see you all Thursday. One thing, and y'all tell me, did y'all think that this was a worthy subject to discuss? Because I'm disappointed in the outcome as far as the number of people, and I kind of let people know in advance, and yet the numbers were still small. So, what do y'all think that's about before I go? And then after that, I just get out of here. But I'm trying to get, I know she'd be busy, but I was trying to get the ISP to come to, or at least be in what's name. You know what, bro? That's almost a lecture too. Because I had to get people a foundation. Most people don't even have any. Most people don't even know anything about the the CBDCs and stuff like that. Like, I haven't covered that in so long. I would have to reintroduce people to the concept and then take it from there. Get into Peter Thiel and Klaus Schwab and Yuval Harari and all that. So I'll just be completely honest. I don't mind doing it, but if we're not gonna get the numbers, all right, brother, you know this. If I don't talk about something that's centered around Black people, but it's kind of make it positive, or I can make other people the villain, realistically, it seems like I don't get the numbers. That seems to be the only thing people are interested in, which in this day and time is not as relevant as they think it is. A watch party of timeless. I don't even know how. I would have to figure out how to do that. But anyway, I'll come up with something or not, and if I don't come up with something, still look at 6-7 o'clock or so, because something will come up on the channel. If I don't live stream tomorrow, there will be videos posted on the channel either way. If I do live stream tomorrow, if you suddenly see a video pop up around noon, I'm live streaming it at 6. So that'll let you know, because what I'm trying to do is, at least for this month and for probably the first half of next month, I'm trying to keep the content steady at a steady pace, and hopefully, because here's what's happening real quick, and then the subscribers are growing, but the viewers are not, which I don't understand. I don't understand how people subscribe and then don't want to view anything, or I don't see the differences. Like, I see the subscriber numbers going up kind of steadily, but they're not the views aren't going up. And when we have live streams, we're not getting the same numbers that we were getting previously. I got more numbers from coming back after a few months than well, I'm steadily doing stuff. So that's what I'm trying to process. That's what I'm trying to figure out. What is I'm missing? What is happening? Is it a natural phenomenon, or is it some manipulation by the YouTube people? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So with that, brothers and sisters, man, I thank you all for listening. For those who were here and gave their thoughts, I thank you all for interacting with me. For those who will hear this later, you can, if you find value in it, you can still donate via Cash App when you see it. Also, you can buy a super thanks, which is a thing that you can do it on a video or just rewatching a live stream. And the brother said, "Hey man, listen, I can't do nothing about that. I can't do nothing about that, bro." So yeah. So again, lastly, follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, Twitter at dc_radical_1, OTW2 at dc_radical1. Donate me Cash App, $ dc_radical1. And you can email me at dc.radical_1 at protonmail.com. With that, I say a BB for ODA and straight black pride.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_one. And the Cash App is $dc_radical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.